Hi, everyone, and thank you for coming to our 10 Capital Family Office online roundtable today. I'd like to introduce to you Hall Martin of 10 Capital. Hall, take it away.
Great. Thanks, David. I want to thank everybody for joining us today for another 10 Capital Roundtable for Family Offices. The purpose of this program is to introduce the family office world to high net worth individuals who want to start a family office. And for those who already run a family office, want to introduce new technologies and methods for running a family office. We'll give the audience just a minute more to get in. We have a good crowd today, and we'll introduce our speaker first, and then later in the program, we'll have a few presentations from some of our companies as well. I want to thank you guys for joining us today and give us just a moment to get set up here. So for our audience, I want to introduce Charles Hart, who is an expert in the area of working with family offices and working with different trust structures and estate planning tools. With that, Charles, go ahead and give us more detail about your background and what you do.
Okay. Basically, I've got about 45 plus years experience. I started out with Arthur Young and Company, worked also for Pete Mark as a senior tax manager, had my own accounting firm. In 84, I went into financial planning and investment management. I sold that practice in March of 2023. And now I work for an accounting firm and just do consulting and estate planning. So basically, we've done a lot with high net worth individuals, done a lot of dynasty trust, being able to move assets out of the estate of a family and keep them out until the family needs to have the money to spend on. So that kind of gives you a little bit of background about what we do.
That sounds great. So tell us more about working with family offices for estate planning. Why is that a hot topic in today's market?
Well, it's an extremely hot topic because we have a whole generation of individuals that have been great entrepreneurs and built up a great family or great family business. And now they're either liquidating this business or passing it to the next generation. We found that the family office is a setup that will allow for them to make a smoother transition than just trying to pass it to the person who's never built the business nor run the business. I think that we have a tremendous opportunity because where the estate tax stands today at $13,610,000, and it will go up for 2025, but then it sunsets and goes back to about $7 million. The current administration has already said they'd like to reduce that down to 3.5 million. So at a tax rate of 40 or 45%, any kind of transfer that the family office would have, if you're able to transfer the money now via dynasty trust, that would give you the advantage of passing that almost $28 million downstream for the next generations to be able to manage, and it would be in a trust format so that it would give a level of protection both to the trustee and then the children who you're passing it to.
Great. Can you explain what a dynasty trust is? The first time I heard that, that was a new concept to me, but what exactly is a dynasty trust?
A dynasty trust is basically a trust that's set up so not only does it pass to the next generation, but it stays out of the family's estate tax assets. In other words, if I were to pass to my son the full exemption, say of $13-14 million and go to him, and he didn't pull it out, it would pass to the next generation and the next. So basically it would put the whole system in place to pass down from generation to generation without having to go to the gatekeeper and pay the estate tax. For example, Blockmacher is one of the first ones, not really first ones to start it, but he went to Alaska and started a perpetual trust. So in Alaska, if you use their system, your trust can last in perpetuity. Where in Texas, we have laws that do not allow for perpetuity. Now that used to be it was much more limited, but now it'll extend to 300 years. Delaware trust can be almost in perpetuity, as can Wyoming, which is 1,000-year trust, or a Nevada trust, or South Dakota. So there's several states that have recognized this ability, and all the high net worth, or say most of the high net worth individuals, will put their assets in a dynasty type trust situation, so that effectively once you set it up, you escape estate taxes each year.
Great. What about if there's income producing assets inside the trust? Who pays for that?
Well, if you distribute the assets out, then the person that receives the money would pay for that. The long-term capital gains, depending on how you handled it, would stay probably in the trust. But you can distribute assets and money out of the trust if you choose to. We've had people that have just shut the trust down and distributed all the assets out. But what we find is, if you set it up from that trust company, nobody really wants to pay the estate tax, because it currently is at 40% of the value of your assets. And so that is, although you don't get a step up in tax basis inside the dynasty trust, you don't have to pay the estate tax at 40%.
Right. There used to be something called AB trust. What happened to those?
Well, they're still there. They're still there. You know, you can have an AB trust set up so that you don't end up, mainly the AB trust now with portability is not as important. You know, but used to the AB trust were set up so that you split the assets of the estate, and it would go into one trust called an A trust, the other trust a B trust. The A trust would be the one that would use up the exemption to pass to the next generation. It also would protect those assets from being used by the surviving spouse. Mainly if a gentleman remarried, he could take and give all of the assets away. If the spouse that is deceased didn't like that, well, they could make it make it available to their spouse, but not available for their spouse to take it and give it to another person. So that's still there. We still have that, depending on the size of the estates. Again, with portability, a lot of that, other than the ability to maintain who the assets go to. My wife and I have had these discussions several times. You know, I view it, the assets should go to the children who need it. She views it that it's split equally. So.
Great. If there are questions from the audience, please post them in the chat box, and we'll be glad to give Charles answer those questions, as he knows more about this than I think any of us. And so one more question around the trust itself is, what about the generation skipping trust? Is that still around?
It is. It is. You know, you can just pass it. The only reason we like the generation skipping trust is that, you know, you don't want to make a gift to the first generation or the second generation down, which you've got currently under the current laws, you've got this GST exemption and the estate tax exemption are the same numbers. So you can pass to the third or fourth generation down if you chose to. So that still makes sense. But the generation skipping process here, by putting in the dynasty trust, you can accomplish the same thing, which is one. People usually don't want to have that many trusts. They're much more difficult to handle. They'll usually take one trust, and then that's only one tax return to file. Although we have some clients that want a generation skipping trust for every child. Usually we do it for each family unit.
Well, great. It appears our chat box is disabled. We'll get that enabled. Until then, you guys can go and put your questions in the Q&A box in the middle of the screen, and we'll carry forward with Q&A itself. But we will get the chat box fixed here shortly. So last question about the Dynasty Trust. When did this come into being? It sounds very new to me. Is this something that's a recent case, or have I just not been paying attention?
No, this well, certainly I'm not going to say you haven't been paying attention. What I would say is that, you know, we've used these for the last 30 years since I've been in the business. but really the Kennedys have used these for several years. The Rockefellers have used these. So it's been used at a high net worth level for many, many generations here. But we've only really started using it in Texas, the oil and gas industry in the last 20 to 30 years. So actually, I set a dynasty trust up in 2005. This just shows you the power of it. We set it up in 2005 with some oil company stock. Today, that trust is valued at over $100 million. And that was just based on the earnings from the oil company coming out. So the children that we have that are beneficiaries of this trust, that's out of their estate. And they can pull money out if they want to. But other than that, basically, they will not have to worry about the estate tax on that $100 million. It'll pass down to the next generation, and the next generation estate tax free.
Right. Well, I've heard that 2016 tax cuts are sunsetting in 2025, 26. Just a broader question. What do you think the impact of that sunset is going to be on the tax laws?
Well, I think without a doubt, we will know most likely in the first week in November who's going to control the House, Senate, and the presidency. What we think is that because the sunset is there, if Trump were to win, he'll have to win both houses to probably stop it. The sunset basically means that it's going to drop from probably right around $14 million estimated down to about $7 million. The current administration has said they'd like to reduce that 7 down to 3.5 million. So what I think is in 2025, there will more than likely be a rush for the door to use up the $13,610,000 exemption. Actually, what we're seeing is there won't be enough attorneys to draft the documents if the high net worth people decide to start giving the money away. There basically is, you're well aware, Harold, there's 3 places the money can go. The money, when you pass, you get to take 0 with you. It can go to your family. It can go to charity, or it can go to the government. So you get a free pass for the 13,610,000 now. And then after that, that can go to your kids, and then the government will take their share after that if it doesn't go to charity.
So what are you advising your clients to do today with regards to a dynasty trust? What do you tell them they should be doing at this point?
Well, what we're doing today is that we would set up a family. We found that most of our clients who made the money have, for some strange reason, they don't care to lose control of it. So what we do is we set up a family limited partnership with the general partner, and then have the children own their share of that partnership in the dynasty trust. So basically, the appreciation on the assets will accrue mostly to the children, and the individual can control those assets until his death and his wife's death.
And how do you think it relates to starting or forming a family office? What role does it take there?
Well, I think the family office, as I said, many of the children that are going to receive the money do not understand how the money was made. It also provides a way for them to utilize the family office by having accounting done, basically having the taxes done, buying insurance for everybody. And when you can buy it as a group, you can certainly reduce the cost of the accounting, reduce the cost of the insurance, and then provide the family a unity system where they can continue to carry on the family legacy. So I think the family office is extremely important, because most of the time, many families are splintered once the patriarch dies. I don't know whether y'all are familiar with the Box family, but that here in Texas, that was a perfect example where all the brothers were suing each other after the main man died. It cost them almost the family and cost them several $1,000,000. So by having a family office together and a governmental structure in place on how to run it, it provides for a smooth transition.
Very
Extremely
good.
important.
All right. Well, if there are any questions, go and put them in the Q&A box. And what we'll do now is we're going to take a break and hear from one of our companies. Buddy Lyons of Intact is going to give us a short presentation, and then we're going to come back and answer any questions that may be put into the box at that point. Thanks, Charles. If you can just stand by for a few moments, we'll build up some more questions and come back to you. With that, Buddy, if you can go ahead and share your screen, love to hear your presentation on Intact.
Hi, Hall. Can you see that? See the
Yes,
screen?
we can. You're good to
Okay,
go.
thank you. I'm Buddy Lyons. I'm the CEO of Intact Medical, and we are an acoustic IoT wearables company. We do digital health to predict adverse events, and we just launched our first product in 2023 into a $4 billion U.S. major abdominal surgery market. We'll talk about that in a second. We're getting traction in the marketplace. It's in value analysis committee at 3 hospitals that have 15 hospitals in those systems. We expect at least an additional 8. That pipeline is building by year end. Those 8 have 100 hospitals in them. And then we have a clinical trial going on that we expect to end in July that has 8 additional sites like Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Northwestern University, and several others that will be available to start purchasing the product after that trial is over. We believe revenue generation will begin in the second half of the year. And we're already working on our second generation device, which is a more accurate device that we expect to file a 510(k) on in 2025. Previs AI is an acoustic IoT wearables platform that we've come up with, and we just did a heart and lung study there, and being able to predict bronchospasm in asthma patients. And that's a market with a huge unmet medical need where there's self-monitoring going on right now, and you get about 2 million patients going to the ER. We expect to file a 510(k) submission on that in sometime in 2025. Our current round is a $2.3 million. We've got $2.25 million committed with a January 1st close. We'll do a larger price round later in the year that'll be determined by Previs EA revenue that we have at that time. Our primary sales organization, Clinical Technologies Inc., is a major investor. This is their second major investment in Intact because they believe it's going to change post-op care in major abdominal surgery. There's a huge clinical need for this in about 6.3 million U.S. major abdominal surgeries a year. Acute paralysis of the GI tract occurs about 2 to 10 days after surgery. It's post-operative ileus. It's the most common complication. It's the most common reason for readmission and prolonged length of stay. Drives a really high readmission rate of over 20%, and prolongs the length of stay in some patients by 3 to 5%. The problem is that at-risk patients for postoperative ileus cannot be identified prior to it happening right now. And so you have reactive protocols right now that force either high readmissions or prolonged length of stay. Some surgeons do delayed oral refeeding, delayed discharge, where you have absolutely 0 readmissions. That's a great thing. Problem is you're holding 70 to 80% of your patients for 3 to 5 days longer than necessary, and you're losing money on every single case that you do. Other surgeons feed you on the day of surgery, and they do early discharge. It has a lower length of stay of about 5 days, but you drive a 20% readmission rate. Obviously, neither one of these is good for the patient, good for the hospital, the doctor, the system, or anything else. Previs EA proactively identifies those at-risk patients at post-op hour 12, so the doctor knows when to feed their patient, and they know when they can be discharged. So it enables personalized post-op refeeding care and discharge strategies to optimize length of stay instead of just running them through a blind protocol because they don't know anything. It's very simple to use. You just place it on the patient's abdomen within an hour of surgery, and it quantifies an acoustic biomarker that we call MH4 at post-op hour 12. When it quantifies that, it makes the prediction at post-op hour 12, and the physician can refeed or not, and knows when to discharge. So low-risk patients can undergo early oral refeeding, early discharge, and that reduces the length of stay by 3 to 5 days in those patients. High-risk patients can be delayed. You can do delayed oral refeeding and delayed discharge and reduce readmissions rates from the 20 down to about 5% of the patient population. This increases patient safety, and it turns all those losses that hospitals are currently having into profitable surgeries, and it's much better patient care for the patients. The value prop, we really show them what the length of stay is versus the case mix index and other hospitals of similar size and case mix index. We can run a budget impact model, which this was created by a third-party health economics firm, demonstrating in their patient populations what clinical benefits are going to occur that drive economic benefits. In this particular hospital, we could reduce length of stay by up to 4 days, readmissions by 43%. It reduces patient risk and have a $9.7 million positive budget impact. This is showing just for intestinal surgery alone. There are about 10 times more major abdominal surgeries than just intestinal surgeries. So this, for major abdominal surgery or widespread use in a hospital, it could be up to 10 times greater than that $9.7 million. The ambulatory surgery is a huge topic right now. Ambulatory meaning 1 day stay. So you get in the patient in, and you do surgery and you let them go 23 hours later. There are lots of things to do with a very complex payment system as to why that's better for the hospital and it's better for the patient. We were just at the annual colorectal surgery meeting, and everybody wants to move toward this at varying speeds. The thing that has held us back is the sense that surgeons do not know what patients are at risk for developing the most common cause of readmission and prolonged length of stay, which is a postoperative ileus. Previs-CA has a 95% negative predictive value, which means the device says the patient's not going to develop a postoperative ileus. It's correct 95% of the time. And we believe that this can be used in up to 30% of cases, which would really dramatically reduce length of stay. And the case, instead of being $25,000 per case, it would be less than $10,000 per case. We expect this to be a major driver, and we have more and more people interested in this around the country. The market is about 6.3 million surgeries in the U.S., about 9.3 million in Europe and UK, and we don't really have great numbers out of Asia, but it is a good device for places like Japan, and we believe it's greater than 10 million surgeries worldwide. Currently, it's a single-use device. We're moving to a multi-use device over the next 12 months. And the gross margins of those, you can see, are 75% for single use and multi-use about 95%. The time the technology was being developed, there was no way to do this in multi-use fashion, but now we can. It's sold directly to hospitals, and the reps call on surgeons and chief medical officers and people who are interested in these numbers. The cost of the device, average selling price is about $600, and usually provides greater than a 10 times ROI for the hospital. We're driving growth. We're moving. We just expanded for another 7 reps from 17 to 24. We're going to move probably from 24 to 32 by the end of the year. We got an expanded label in 2023 to major abdominal surgery for intestinal surgery. Ambulatory colectomy is a hot topic right now in colorectal surgery. We believe that's going to be a major driver. We have something called the Previs Assurance Program. What we do is we go in, the hospital buys devices from us, they do an evaluation, and if the device does not show a clinical benefit leading to a positive ROI, we just give them their money back. We're that confident the device works very well. As I said before, it's in VAC at 3 particular hospitals now. We expect at least another, right now, it's up today, 8 additional VACs by the end of the year. That should build as the year goes out. The 8 clinical sites should be available to make sales to in the second half of the year when the trial completes at the end of July, and that sales pipeline is growing robustly. This is just to give you a flavor for the numbers at just the 8 clinical sites here. Just those sites would be worth, the intestinal revenues about $7 million, and major abdominal surgery is over $50 million just at those particular sites. The Previs AI platform is something we developed that's new. Previs EA is a featured engineered device. We're looking at one feature. Previs AI is like looking at 100 different acoustic biomarkers all at one time. And we developed the platform because it's rapid development. And the second generation product for predicting a postoperative ileus, Previs AI Gut, will come off that, where we expect a 510K in 2025. It's more accurate. It uses machine learning, and so you get continuously improved performance. And it's half the cost of Previs EA, plus the fact it will be a multiple use device. We did a study in heart and lung data, We believe we've got an excellent opportunity with a product that we're for now calling Previs AI Lung that predicts a bronchospasm in asthma patients. It's a large market with 12.5 million U.S. patients and expected 510(k) on that in the second half of 2025. It's a huge market with unmet medical need right now. With self-monitoring going on, patients are ending up in the ER for about $2 million a year. We have a very experienced management team. I've been here doing this for 25 years and have done 3 companies with this. John Cromwell is the brainchild of all this technology and has developed all the technology. Andrew Forzik has worked with companies for over 25 years. We have people on our board who have lots of exits. Terry Wall and Sean Fordick both have many exits with that. And we have a very experienced sales team from CTI, Kent Kraft, who's been doing this for 40 years, and Scott Nelson, 25 years. He manages our 1099 reps in the field. Lots of things. We're highly capital efficient. We developed Previs EA and got it through the FDA on less than $3.75 million in total corporate expenses. We've got lots of milestones here with lots of IP that you can see in this chart that I will not bother to go over today with you. But we got the round going on. We've got about $75,000 left on this particular round that's going to close on July the 1st. And then we'll do another round, probably up to about $2 million, with the valuation be determined at that time based on Previs EA revenue that will support these milestones, expanding Previs EA, data from an ambulatory collaborative, the Previs AI lung prototype, and then doing regulatory filings for Previs AI gut and Previs AI lung next year. And that is the presentation. What questions do you have?
Great. We have some good questions here for you so far. The first question is, what's the adoption rate among clinicians for this? From the day you show up at their doorstep to the time they're actually using it, what is that time frame?
Yeah, that's about a 6-month sales cycle when you start to when you actually get it in the hospital. The sales cycle in hospitals has really dramatically increased since the pandemic. And that's why, we launched the product this year. It took us a little bit of time to sort of get our messaging correct, because you really don't know if you have correct messaging until you actually get in the marketplace and ask somebody to buy it. And then you get them interested, and then they have to put it through their VAC committees. And then, it's about a 6 or so month process from when you if they go, yeah, I want to use your device. You usually have to go garner some more support within that hospital as well. So yeah, Hall, it's about a 6-month device to go from when you contact somebody to actually starting to do something.
And how much do you make off per device or per procedure? And is there anything recurring in that process?
There is no recurring revenue in that, but the gross margin on that is about 75% right now on that.
Great. And I noticed that you had the very large groups up there, like Mayo Clinic. Does this work well in the smaller rural clinics as well?
Actually, yes, it works extremely well for those kinds of places, particularly because those are the places that, when we look at rural hospitals, they typically have much longer lengths of stay. And we live in a fixed payment reimbursement system. So Medicare, for instance, pays a flat fee to do an intestinal surgery. And with that long length of stay, if you're holding a patient, more than, say, 4 days, every day you're losing money. So every day that we can cut off of that and get that patient out safely out of the hospital, if it's like $2,500 a day that they're reimbursing, that $2,500 drops to the bottom line for the hospital. So those hospitals are just as important. It's just as important to them to anybody like it is Mayo or Cleveland Clinic or anybody else.
Great. And how does this work with the physician's workflow? Is it making major changes, or is it a drop-in replacement? Or how easy for the physicians to pick this up and use it?
Yeah, the physician will probably never actually touch this device. The nurse will put it on probably in the OR, the PACU, when surgery's over with. And this will just fit right in with the physician's protocol instructions. They have after surgery instructions that tell nurses what to do on the floor after surgery. So this will go in those instructions, just saying if the Previs EA device on this patient at post-op hour 12 says that the patient is high risk, contact me. Don't feed them. Let me know that that's happened. If it's low risk, you can go ahead. They'll tell them go ahead and put them on whatever kind of diet that they prefer to put them on. So it fits right into their current workflow with what they're doing now, just putting notes in the EHR for the nurse to follow when they get the device information.
One of the biggest challenges is complications. What have you seen so far with the unit in the field so far with respect to complications?
There are none. I mean, that's the great thing about this device. It's non-significant risk device, right? It does one thing. It predicts patients that have post-operative ileus at post-op hour 12. And at post-op hour 12, once they have that reading, they remove the device from the patient and they put it in a box and we come pick it up and to send it back to our contract manufacturer. So it's a very safe device to use. There are no complications with that.
Right. And the last question is, you showed a slide with a roadmap of future products. Can you tell us a little bit about what's coming up next?
Yeah, the heart and lung study we did demonstrated a couple of things for us, that the Previs AI platform is truly a platform technology. And we will be going from basically announcing that proof of concept data, which was last December, to a 510K in the second half of 2025. So in less than 24 months, we'll develop a product to predict bronchospasm and asthma. Why that's so important is right now, patients who have moderate to severe asthma are supposed to blow into peak flow meters or spirometers to self-monitor. The problem with that is they have supposed to do it 6 or 8 times a day, and they end up not doing it. And then they end up getting in trouble. And then they end up going to the ER. And so this way, with a device that they can small device, rechargeable device they can wear on their chest that sends data to the cloud that constantly monitors them, right? Now there's no more of this self-monitoring. And when the doctor will prescribe it and say, okay, if your app, there'll be an app on the phone, if your app gets to here, I want you to take your albuterol or your steroids or whatever and call my office. If the doctor wants to, we can also take that data and send it to his office so he knows that patient, or she knows that patient is about to have a bronchospasm, so that they can follow up with them. It's a hugely important thing, and we believe we can do something very similar in CHF. But Previs AI lung will come first in a market that really has a huge medical need to prevent those 2 million. It's 2 million ER visits every year for those patients and about 500,000 hospitalizations for them. And now, because they don't have to self-monitor anymore, it's being done for them. We believe that we can prevent most of those.
Great. Well, that's the end of our questions. I want to thank you, buddy, for a great presentation, and looking forward to next steps there for you guys. With that, we'll go back to Charles Hart. We have some new questions come in for you, Charles. The first question was, how can a startup use a trust to protect assets?
Well, one of the ways a startup can use trust to protect assets, there are some states like Wyoming and a couple of others that allows the grantor to effectively be a beneficiary of the trust. And so there's a 4-year look back there, which is Texas is not one of those states. So basically, if you want to protect your assets and you have a liability from the startup, or if you want to have some of the assets of the startup in that, you'll be able to not only protect it from creditors, but you could protect it from the estate taxes going forward. So.
Right. Next question is, what's the drawback to a dynasty trust?
Well, the drawback is always going to be that a trust goes to the maximum tax bracket at $13,000. So you have to be careful on how you put it together. There is the cost to start the trust, which can be expensive depending on how many beneficiaries you have and which state you have. And then there's continual cost of the tax return each year.
Right. Can you change it later?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You can always do away with the trust.
All right. So how do you set up one, and what would be a ballpark cost in Texas for it?
Well, we wouldn't set up a dynasty trust in Texas, but you would set it up either in Nevada, Wyoming, Delaware, a state like that. It'd probably be anywhere, by the time you use the attorneys that would be very good at doing it. You don't want to mess this up. It'll cost you between $15,000 to $20,000. So you need to be serious about what you're doing here.
Great. No, that answers the questions for now. If you hang around for a minute, we have another company presenting, and we'll get more questions for you from the audience with that.
Right.
So with that, let's go to our next company. We have up with us next ClearCam. Doug Stokely, can you share your slides and kick off when you're ready?
Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for allowing us the time to talk about ClearCam Hall and team. My name is Doug Stokely. I'm the co-founder, president, and chief operating officer of ClearCam. My colleague and the CEO of our company, John Eaker, is also on in the background here.
Hello.
He is actually in clinic and surgery right now. So to his credit, he still wants to come by and say hi to everyone. We have a company that has a kind of a crazy notion. We really believe that surgeons should see clearly when they're performing surgery. It sounds like a strange thing to say out loud, but the fact is that the data shows and studies show that about 44% of the time, surgeons can't see clearly when they're doing and performing minimally invasive surgery. And as a result of that, they're constantly interrupting the surgery, taking the scope out, cleaning it, stopping the surgery, leaving the instrumentation in the surgeon or in the patient, and then coming back into the surgery and resuming the surgery. So they're constantly being interrupted, and their momentum disappears. Here's two products right here, Clarify and Lap Review. They're kind of in the market right now. Clarify is a little igloo. It's called the Igloo. And these are ex vivo solutions. So as I said before, you have to take this scope out and you have to take it out of the body. You have to insert it inside of this little device, take it out, and you're supposed to keep it there for 10 seconds or so, 15 seconds to warm up the end and add some surfactant. You go back into the body and you resume the surgery, which, that can happen up to 6 to 10 times per hour. It's really ridiculous. We don't pull our car over during a rainstorm to clean the windshield off because we can't see. Our drive would be very ineffective if we did that. So, we didn't see that as a viable solution for technology or in the OR. And so this idea of ClearScope came to mind. And what is ClearScope? It's a windshield wiper for your laparoscope. And a little bit on it here. I hope you see this video as it comes through. But essentially, what's that?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So essentially, you're seeing the device here. This is ClearScope, and you can see it's a sheath with a little windshield wiper on the end that we're coming up to now. And what happens is a surgeon slides at the beginning of the case before it even starts. They just slide this device, this sheath over top of their camera. They set it to the end of the tip, make sure it's working, and then they start surgery. So it slides through the trocar, goes into the abdominal cavity in this instance, but also thoracic or pelvic cavities. We do that as well. And you can see as they activate it, they can turn the scope, cleaner there, and you actually remove the debris. And it's a really simple idea, very hard to do. It's a simple idea, hard to do, but our engineers have managed to put it together. We are FDA cleared. So we are cleared to sell in the US. We're a 510K class 2 disposable device, and we're safe, simple, and effective. We're $147.50 gross as a price, but there's no reimbursement codes. There's not a reimbursement strategy that's required. If you do a lot of work in medical devices, that can be a real sticking point for some devices to get that reimbursement code. We don't have to do that. We're pretty proud of the fact there's 30 issued patents on this product. We've protected this and wrapped it up pretty well. We have 18 actions pending as well. We look at our IP roadmap as a living, breathing item, and we're really proud of that. So about a $1.75 billion opportunity worldwide, $700 million in the US. And we started this company in January of 2018. It started in a lab at the University of Texas at Austin. We're the first hardware company to come out of the University of Texas in Austin in medical device. And so as a result, we're kind of excited. The technologies have left UT, but we're actually the first company that's actually achieved exit velocity. And we've been in market on our own, really standing on our own since that January 2018 timeline. We've raised a bunch of money. We did 1,200 cases by January of 2023. We're now at over 2,000 cases, 24, and we are really comfortable with this new version of the product. And I use the word comfortable because, my background is in hardware on the semiconductor side of the world, unfortunately in technology, but not necessarily medical. But what I do know about hardware solutions, and what we know as a team, is that it takes time for those solutions. You have to really fine tune them before you go to market. So we've done that. We got to know our customer. It's thoracic surgeons first, not our founder, John, who's on here as a general surgeon. He thought general would be first. It turns out thoracic. They're very messy cases. We want surgeons that do in excess of 250 cases a year, ideally, but we work with surgeons in a wide range. We have a 5 millimeter product, 0 and 30 degree scopes. We deliver decent gross margins. for small productions in the US, with really great margins on larger productions outside the US. And we've done the research on that. We have a great channel. We're selling into the market. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And we've done that through a pandemic and now through a revised way of selling into hospitals, as many of you are probably aware, in the new age post COVID. And we've done, like I said, over 2,000 cases, and we have several white papers, which can be found on our website. This is our roadmap. It's the most exciting slide we have, because not only is this product that we just showed you something we're excited about, but we're more excited in some ways with our robotic product that's coming out. Robotic surgery is growing in the market. The problem here is worse than it is in standard laparoscopy, but it is one that we think we can solve. And surgeons have come repeatedly to us asking for a solution into the robotic space, and we're working on that. We expect to have MVPs the end of this year. We also have something called ClearScope IQ, which is a technology we've developed, which is a CNN, a convolutional neural network, that actually uses visual computing to detect when the image is dirty and when the image is clean, so we can introduce an automated wiper in the future, just like you have automatic windshield wipers for your car. How are we going to market? Well, we kind of did it for the first little while, just banging the market with one sales rep or a vice president of sales and some sales reps. But what we've pivoted into in the last 6 months as we prepare for commercialization is a distribution network that we're really proud of. We connected with Scanlon International, one of the longest sort of contiguous surgical instrumentation brands in the world. They make thoracic instrumentation. They're a family business. They've been around for almost 100 years. And they have a distribution network that we have managed to come into. So we're starting to work with them. These are serious distributors with really great reputations. And we're starting in the east and the southeast of the United States right now as we work towards the Florida market and possibly into the Georgia markets. We also are anticipating being added by Health Trust this summer. We've been working with them, a big GPO that's going to open up an entire world. And so we're really leaning into what this commercialization traction is, which is really 3 phases. 1, getting surgeons to adopt the product. 2 is to operationalize it. And 3 is to standardize it. We have moved companies through this, or hospitals and doctors through this, and we have a standardized group. Baylor Scott and White, we have a contract with. Ascension Seton, we have many doctors that we're working with. These are large institutions. Corewell Health up in Michigan, and Houston Methodist just added us. Dr. Ray Chihara, who's a renowned thoracic surgeon, just did trials, really loves the product and is bringing it into his practice. We've also got a pipeline that's pretty big. HCA, we've got 6 different facilities in HCA that want to try this product. Stanford Healthcare, we just did a week-long trial. They want us back for second week to close that up. Baylor Scott and White Dallas, Bumsey, and then one that we're particularly excited about, John, being a veteran, is excited about as well, is the VA. And the VA in Orlando, we are scheduling our trial there. So the pipeline and the funnel is big. And we have these other companies that we're operationalizing in the middle. So Methodist Dallas, THR, the SCA, our first surgical center, they're starting to get up and running with it. They've gone through the trial, and now we're bringing it into transitioning them into standardizing on the product. So we're excited about that too. We have some great revenue projections because now we truly are going to go commercialize, and we see a path to about $8 million a year in revenue in the next 2 years. We have great gross margin dollars as those manufacturing volumes increase, and we get those gross margins up. I think we're all most proud of our team. There's myself, Doug, there's John, who's on, as I said, and he's available for Q&A too. Chris Idelson, who's our CTO. He's the young guy who invented this product on a PhD thesis at UT. And Jennifer Lennox, our CFO. And then we have this great team of engineers, operations people, and a great intern program. We take good advantage of the University of Texas interns, and they've been a big part of our story. So what are we doing right now? We have a $5.5 million seed series 3 opportunity. We have raised about $5 million of it. It says $650,000 available. Actually, there's only about $500,000 available since this slide came up. We had some investors come in this week. It's a priced equity round. We've done 3 rounds of priced equity as outlined here. It's a $14.5 million pre-money valuation. So for a medical device, it's certainly we think a good value, and we think it's an opportunity for people right now to jump in. And what are we doing with that? We're really focusing on commercialization. We're also focusing on finishing up those products I talked to you about, and then we have a small amount going towards our operations budget. But really, the main focus is commercialization, sales, manufacturing, and marketing. A little bit of an outline there, and that's ClearCam and our product ClearScope. Thanks for your time.
Great. So first question is, what's the sales cycle on this? From the time you start to the time they're using it, what is that window?
Yeah, I'm just going to get out of here for a second, guys, because my video is not on for some reason. Yeah, so the sales cycle is it was long, it's gotten shorter, is the way I would put it. Certainly in 2020 and 2021, as the pandemic was on, these cycles were very long. The value analysis committees weren't meeting that often. So getting it on board was tough. But we've seen in the last 3 to 4 months, we've added 2 new hospitals in a period of about 2 months from the time that we first contact them, go through value analysis committee, get a trial in place, and they say, yes, we want to see this commercialized. So we think it's realistically 3 months, I would say. Is
great.
Is the
and, what's it like to sell it to the hospital through the procurement cycle? How does it fit through that process?
It's been easier than I think a lot of my colleagues in this space. We just had dinner with a couple of CEOs, and it's challenging for capital equipment right now and some of these other things. We are a disposable. We're in the package, the OR pack. So once they decide to purchase, it's pretty simple to get it approved. The VA, for example, which is always talking about having a spending freeze, this is called a credit card purchase. They can buy these literally with a government credit card in boxes of 5, and so they kind of like that. And we're excited about that VA trial.
What kind of training do you have to do on the physician to make that successful?
I'll let John answer that question since he's on and he's taking the courtesy to be here. John, you want to take that?
Yeah. Hi, Hall and everyone else. Yeah, thanks for having us. The training, there is a little bit of training. It's pretty quick. It usually involves, talking to the surgeon at the scrub sink for a few minutes before the case. Hopefully you catch him before that. But really, it's more of training. Well, it's training the surgeon on how to use it and then training the tech on how to set it up. Within about a 5-minute training, the techs can learn how to do that without a problem. And surgeons, I would say there's a little bit of a learning curve. It takes 2 or 3 cases before they're proficient with it. But so there's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's relatively quick.
And what group do you normally go to sell this? Is it the large hospital? Is it the ambulatory group? Or where do you find who is the ideal customer for it?
Yeah, both. The larger hospitals are going to be larger volume, but also higher barrier to entry. The surgery centers are nice because the barrier to entry is a little bit lower and the sales cycle a little bit faster. So we've done both. So really both are wherever they're doing a decent volume of laparoscopic or thoracoscopic surgery.
Aside from this product, what's the next step for it? Is there a next generation or additional products you're coming up with to add more to the revenue? What's the plan there?
Yeah, so we definitely have a product roadmap. It includes a product that you can actuate a little bit easier one-handed, has a trigger mechanism. And then also electronic version that's coupled with our software to make an automatic lens cleaner. That's what Doug was alluding to that we're pretty excited about. We really think that's the future of robotic surgery, minimally invasive surgery, where you just, the tech where the surgeon doesn't even have to think about cleaning the lens, it's automated.
Great. We're at the end of our time. Thanks so much, John. Thanks so much, Doug, for a great presentation. With that, we'll go back to Charles. We had a few more questions come in. And the question that often I get asked in this area is, how do I know a Dynasty Trust is right for me? What questions do you ask people to determine if it's a good fit or not?
Well, the first thing we'd want to do would be to see what kind of asset base they have. You're going to need to have somewhere in excess of $10 to $15 million, $20 million in assets to make it worth your while. You also, that or else you're going to have a growing business. If you have one that's going to accelerate and you can actually put that in the Dynasty Trust, then you will remove that from your estate and you can still control it. from that standpoint. So those are the main things. Again, this would all dovetail into the family office along that same line.
Right. And it protects against bankruptcy. And what else does it protect against?
Well, it protects against the fact that you could have a spouse, not your spouse, but your child spouse, get a divorce. The assets would be in trust. It'll help you without a non-compete, without a prenuptial agreement. So that's already there by being in trust and can't be taken out without the trustee's approval. So it gives you both that. Let me speak to the bankruptcy side of it. Again, Wyoming, which is a trust that allows the grantor to be the beneficiary, is something that we're very interested in going forward because of the fact that you can actually, which Texas doesn't allow you to do, set up a trust which you can be the beneficiary of and have those assets protected from creditors.
Great. What does it not protect against? Is there any situation, government bankruptcy, those type of things where it penetrates through the trust?
I'll probably protect from everything except the IRS.
So the IRS can still garnish money out of it.
I think the IRS can do pretty much anything they want to, but we would have enough walls that it at least take them a while to do it.
I get you. Okay, that's good. If there are any other questions, that's great. Charles, how best for people to reach you?
Yes, I think that do you have I can give you my phone number.
If you want to type it in the chat box, that'd be best. And
do it.
if you want to put an email in there as well, that would give people a chance to capture it off and contact you for follow-on questions. You'll know more than I will. So happy to have you take those questions, but it's been a great presentation from that point of view. And with that, let's thank you so much, Charles. Let's switch over to our final presentation from Todd Wallach of Solution Medical while you type that in, and you're welcome to put a few more notes in there if you like, Charles, as well. Okay. Todd, go ahead and let's see your slides and let's have you kick off.
Great. I think you should have them up now.
We see it.
Good, good, good. So let me get started. I'm about to say, and now for something completely different. So thank you. It's an honor to be with you today. And I'm Todd Wallach, CEO of Solution Medical. And as a quick introduction to me, I'm a life science executive and entrepreneur, and I've taken multiple drugs from the earliest signal in the lab to on the market globally. And I've had multiple drug company exits with greater than 10 to 20 times return. So Solution Medical is actually a specialty pharmaceutical company focusing on drugs requiring mixing at the point of care. Solution was founded by Julia Anthony, who I'm joined with today, who will join us in Q&A, where she and her family members are patients who experience multiple adrenal crisis events per year, which require...
Todd, can you talk a little bit louder or closer to the microphone, please?
Sorry. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
That's better. Go ahead.
Okay. Don't know what's going on, so I'll talk louder. So multiple events per year requiring emergency care for the immediate administration of cortisol, the stress hormone. 200,000 patients in the US are just like Julia, who live under the constant threat of an event occurring. This is a life-threatening condition that is triggered from the body's inability to produce cortisol. Immediate treatment is required, and if immediate treatment is not given timely, it results in potential long and costly hospital stays and unfortunately potential death. So adrenal crisis patients have a very similar demand as patients who had the EpiPens for anaphylaxis. They need an immediate treatment for solving the event. So this is very similar in that in those patients all carry around 2 to 4 doses at all times. EpiPen patients have them in their glove box, their backpack, their lunchbox, their office, their car. And we found adrenal crisis patients are very similar. But the difference is the current products for adrenal crisis are based upon vials and ampules, technologies from the 1950s and 60s that, yes, do require breaking glass prior to administration. So in the event of a crisis, patients are under a state of a significant mental and physical impairment. And if this process flow looks complicated, it's everything I don't want to put in a PowerPoint chart, let alone imagine it being done when you're about to pass out, shaking, or lying on the floor. It requires 14 precise and cumbersome steps. So why is this? Is that reconstituting drugs and injectables are very difficult to do at the point of care. And we have now developed two novel and easy-to-use combination drug device products, which are protected by 6 patent families to address adrenal crisis. First, our 3-step pre-filled syringe for patient retail and hospital use launching in 26, simply activated by pressing the plunger, and our 2-step twist-checked auto-injector for patient retail use launching in 27, simply twist, cap, remove, inject. These injectors provide both the drug and the device and reconstitute the drug on demand, preserving shelf life in years, availability, and simplifying administration for our pipeline as well as collaborations. So our current drug device products replicate and deliver the existing drug formulation, and we're brought to be marketed by what's called the abbreviated FDA 505(b)(2) pathway. Lots of acronyms, but it simply means a very simple clinical trial in about 20 patients to demonstrate that the drug we're injecting is the same as the existing drug. We've built our end-to-end supply chain now via partners, which is ready to finalize the production of these products as well as ramp up for launch. Customer discovery was completed in over 1,900 patients, which is our superpower, and we are actively collaborating with over 18 patient advocacy groups who are highly active in this space and multiple clinicians worldwide who are ready to first endorse our products and second, purchase our products, creating a strong market pull at launch. We project $145 million in US sales for our 2 products, and it's based upon our extensive commercial reimbursement and payer studies, as well as historical product channel sales by channels. We know who, what, where, when, and these drugs go and how they're being used. We expect full patient access with no prior authorization and no step-through therapy for patients to purchase at launch, with common themes of copays expected between $10 and $30, which they have now. We will grow by initial market pull via these patients, but continue to grow by market push via our direct sales force, growing to approximately 20% market share. Our revenue model is based on net pricing after discounts and distribution, and a significant upside from international, going beyond the US, of which we're in talks with several partners. Our future pipeline, other products that are coming, and collaborations where third parties leverage our platform. Our next major milestone for manufacturing readiness for our pre-filled syringes in 2025, of which we are raising our $5 million Series A. This manufacturing readiness milestone is critical as it builds our products to manufacture and commercial readiness. I like to say we're ready to stir the jello of the drug, mold the plastic, and make tens of thousands of units at a time. We project $145 million in US sales with 85% gross margins across our portfolio. We expect to be cash flow positive in 1 to 2 years of US only sales and allocate a significant percentage of revenues for sales and marketing. After adrenal crisis products, our pipeline currently includes other hormone replacement products reflecting $3 billion market, of which we're targeting for 2028. Additionally, our platform will be leveraged by multiple pharma and biotech in markets exceeding $200 billion via our partnerships and collaborations to empower patients and simplify drug administration. Our main competition today for adrenal crisis is the status quo, vials and ampules. For our pre-filled syringe and autoinjector platforms, we offer end-to-end solutions unique in the marketplace and desired by pharmaceutical and our biotech partners. Our platform of drugs are protected by broad IP portfolio, includes 6 patent families, 3 for each of our pre-filled and auto-injectors, and coverage globally across 9 countries, and include composition of matter, design, methods, utility for our products and platforms, as well as 4 trademarks as we move towards commercialization. I'm joined by an experienced management team and extended external team that has brought over 200 drugs and devices to market as part of small, medium, and large pharma, and this team includes expertise in formulation, engineering, supply chain, regulatory requirements, reimbursement, pricing, and commercialization. We have raised a total of $1.5 million to date to advance our products, and current investors include local investment and accelerator groups, strategic partners, and high net worth individuals, and investors who have invested in my previous ventures with exits. Current investors are participating in the round, and all the notes automatically converted into Series A. Our $5 million Series A represents our first price equity round at a $12 million pre-money valuation, which is being led by the Keiretsu Forum. Due diligence has been completed by Keiretsu, Band of Angels, Golden Seeds, and our Hall Martin today who has beat us up in multiple different directions in understanding of what we're doing. When there are two detailed and comprehensive reports available, the round represents attractive terms for new investors, including participating preferred, warrant coverage, and expanding the board to 5 seats, including 2 Series A members. Documents are ready, legal documents are filed, and I'm pleased to say we're closing round even as we speak, our first closing, which we expect to oversubscribe for our first amount. Finally, for those who look forward for more information and participating, incentives exist to invest early with extra warrant coverage the earlier you invest. Completion of our Series A milestone really opens up our exit window, of which are already in extensive discussions and offer multiple strong potential return scenarios over the next 2 to 3 years. My last company in this space lasted about 18 months in bringing drugs to the market. Finally, Solution Medical is committed to bringing the best drugs to market to as many patients as soon as and as easy to use as possible. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to questions.
Great. If there are any questions from the audience, please put it in the chat box. My first question is, you are in discussion with several groups about the exit. What kind of companies would be most interested?
Great. So there are actually 3 types that we're actually in discussion with about 10 companies. There are drug companies who want to bolster their drug and pipeline, and this is a very meaningful revenue to that, especially when you build in ex-US. There are combination drug and device companies that do both, that would like to have our capabilities to expand their portfolio, expand their target profile, and add another drug product on. And finally, some of our competition on our competition matrix have actually been in discussions to actually potentially evaluate and potentially acquire both our technology platform and our supply chain.
Great. And what kind of claims are you making with the patents? What kind of protection does that give you?
Yeah, so we have a very large patent portfolio with very early filings as back as 2013. And that covers what we call our moat around our drug, our device, our ability to deliver, our ability to activate, and even as simply as what the products look like.
Question from the audience. Will this drug help with people who have adrenal issues that are too high?
So this is typically for patients who are hypo, not hyper, but there are some conditions of hyper adrenal where they can produce over cortisol, where they try to shut down production, such as Addison's and Cushing's, where this becomes a very added factor and potential use.
Great. Are there any military applications for this?
Absolutely. And what we've done is there's some of our partners have actually looked at this as our platform to being used for drugs in the military and on demand. The advantage of what we have is drugs are stable at room temperature for years with this product and always available. So using military or hospitals or patients that require no refrigeration, simple, easy to use, have perfect applications, and military is one of the ones which we are talking about.
Have you seen any contracts come up in this area?
Yes, there have been a couple that come out of BARDA, and I've been familiar with very many people at BARDA who are looking at simplified battlefield administrations.
Right. And what's the life of this device? How long can it last?
So we're going to come to market for 1 year initially, but we believe the drug in the product will last as long as 2 to 3 years, and all products moving forward will at least have 1 to 2 years of shelf life.
Can you talk about the supply chain support behind it?
Great. So I'm going to have Julia answer because I want to get her involved in the conversation. So Julia?
Hi, everybody. My name is Julia Anthony. I'm the founder and chief strategy officer of Solution, and also a person living at risk of adrenal crisis every day. So we have our active pharmaceutical ingredient. We ship that over to the UK from Italy, where we actually formulate and fill our drug. And then that aseptically filled container gets shipped here stateside, where the secondary packaging, kitting, and distribution takes place. One of the things that's really exciting as a startup company is that we have this end-to-end supply chain in place and scaling up, especially after COVID. This was hard to achieve as a startup. Not only have we achieved it in the drug vertical, the device vertical, but we've achieved it in all of these verticals and have it all in place. So that adds a lot of value to where we are right now.
Great. No, that's great questions there. I think that's the end of the questions that we have at this particular point. I think with that, we're going to close and wrap up today. Are there any final questions for Charles in the chat box? If not, we'll go ahead and move to close, but we'll give everybody just a moment to see if there's any final questions on the topic of Dynasty Trust. Thought that was a great presentation from everybody. I want to thank guys at Todd and Julia at Solution, and Douglas and John at ClearCam, and then Buddy and Andrew at Intact. Thank you guys for a great presentation on your product. Charles, great presentation on Dynasty Trust. I learned a great deal, and I think everybody else did as well. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today, and want to thank everybody for joining us, and we'll see you back next month for our next Family Office Roundtable, where we'll have additional topics for the family office. With that, we'll go and close it out, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.